Commander Park Yun-woo stood on the observation deck of the main colony building, watching the last Federation transport ship rise into the gray morning sky. The massive vessel grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely among the clouds. His hands were pressed against the cold metal railing so hard that his knuckles had turned white. "Sir?" Captain Kim Tae-jin walked up behind him. The younger man's voice was quiet, almost afraid. "The transport is gone. They said they would come back for more people, but—" Park turned around slowly. His face looked tired and old, even though he was only 45 years old. "They're not coming back, Captain. We both know that." Kim nodded. They had both heard the Federation command speak clearly over the radio. The Veltar swarm was moving too fast. The outer colonies were not worth saving. All Federation forces were to pull back to the inner systems immediately, no exceptions. Park looked out at the colonies spread below them. New Sol Colony had been their home for 12 years. 50,000 people lived here now. They had built farms, schools, hospitals, and factories. Children had been born here. Old people had died here and were buried in the small cemetery on the hill. This was not just a colony anymore. This was home. "How many people did the last transport take?" Park asked, though he already knew the answer would not be good. "About 3,000, Kim said. "The previous ships took maybe 15,000 total. That leaves us with 32,000 people, Park finished. 32,000 people who have nowhere to go." Dr. Lee So-min came running up the stairs to the observation deck. Her medical coat was dirty and her hair was messy. She had been working in the medical center all night, helping injured people get ready for transport. Commander, wait!" Park turned to face her. "What is it, Doctor?" "The Federation transport," she said, breathing hard. "They left behind the sick people. Anyone who couldn't walk was told to stay behind. They said there wasn't enough room for medical equipment or beds for injured people." Park closed his eyes and felt his heart sink even deeper. "How many?" "Almost 800 people. Some of them are very sick. Some are old. Some are children who got hurt in the mining accident last week." Dr. Lee's voice started to shake. "They just left them. They looked at these people and decided they weren't worth saving." Kim hit the railing with his fist. "Those Federation cowards, they promised every citizen would be protected. They promised!" "Promises don't mean much when people are scared," Park said quietly. He looked out at the colony again. People were standing in the streets, looking up at the sky where the transport had disappeared. Some were crying. Some were holding their children. Some just stood there, not moving, like they couldn't believe what had happened. "Sir," Kim said, "what are your orders?" Park thought for a long moment. He had been in the Federation military for 20 years before coming to run this colony. He had fought in 3 different wars. He had seen what happened when people gave up hope. He had also seen what happened when people decided to fight, even when they had no chance of winning. "Get everyone together in the main square," he said, finally. "Everyone who's left. I need to talk to them." "What are you going to tell them?" Dr. Lee asked. "The truth." An hour later, most of the colony had gathered in the main square. Park stood on the steps of the administration building, looking out at thousands of faces. Old people, young people, families with small children, teenagers, workers still wearing their mining uniforms. All of them looking at him, waiting for him to tell them what to do. Engineer Choi Woo-bin stood near the front with his wife Yoon Mi-ra and their twin daughters. The girls were only 7 years old. They didn't really understand what was happening, but they could see that their parents were scared. Mi-ra held them close while Woo-bin stared up at Park with worried eyes. Professor Nam Gil-soo sat in his wheelchair near the medical center. He was 78 years old and had been studying alien life forms for most of his life. He knew more about the Veltar than almost anyone else in human space. He also knew that the Federation had good reason to be afraid of them. Park took a deep breath and began to speak. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear, but he kept it calm and steady. "My friends," he said, "you all know what happened today. The Federation fleet has left our system. They have declared that this colony cannot be defended against the Veltar swarm that is coming toward us." People in the crowd started to talk to each other. Some voices sounded angry. Some sounded scared. Park held up his hand, and they became quiet again. "The Federation has taken as many people as they could," he continued. "But they could not take everyone. 32,000 of us remain here. We have been told that no more ships are coming to get us." Now the crowd was not quiet anymore. People shouted questions. "What do we do? Are we going to die? Why didn't they take us?" Park waited for the noise to die down. "I will not lie to you," he said. "The situation is very bad. The Veltar swarm is a dangerous enemy. They destroy everything in their path. The Federation believes we cannot fight them and win." "So we're just going to die here?" someone shouted from the back of the crowd. "No," Park said, and his voice became stronger. "We are not going to just die here. We are going to fight." The crowd became quiet again, but now people were listening very carefully. "I know this seems impossible," Park said. "We don't have military ships. We don't have advanced weapons. We don't have a fleet to protect us. But we have something else. We have this place. We know every mountain, every valley, every cave on this planet. We know how to survive here. And we have each other." Engineer Jang Seok-ho stepped forward. "Commander, what can we do against Veltar bioships? Our mining equipment is not made for fighting." "Then we make it into fighting equipment," Park said. "Mining lasers can be turned into weapons. Construction vehicles can be turned into tanks. Our communication systems can be used to call for help, even if help seems impossible." Dr. Shin Un-ji, who worked with the colony's power systems, raised her hand. "Sir, even if we could fight their ships, how do we fight their ground forces? I've seen the Federation reports about Veltar warriors. They're bigger and stronger than humans. They have natural armor and claws that can cut through metal. We fight smart, not strong," Park said. "We use traps. We use the land. We make them come to us on our terms, not theirs." Captain Kim stepped up beside Park. "I've been looking at our resources," he said to the crowd. "We have mining explosives. We have construction robots that can dig tunnels and build walls. We have people who know how to use all of this equipment. If we work together, we can make this colony into a fortress." "And if we still lose?" asked teacher Lim Hae-won. She was holding the hand of a small boy who looked scared. Park looked at her, then at the little boy, then at all the faces in the crowd. If we lose fighting for our home. We lose protecting each other. We lose as free people who refuse to give up. That's better than dying as people who were just left behind and forgotten. The crowd was very quiet now. Park could see people thinking about his words. Some nodded. Some looked afraid but determined. Some still looked hopeless. "I won't order anyone to stay and fight," Park said. "If you can find a way to leave this planet, you should do it. Take care of your families, but if you stay, we all stay together. We all work together. We all fight together." Choi Woo-bin stepped forward. "I'm staying," he said loudly. "This is my family's home. This is where my daughters were born. I'm not running away." "I'm staying too," said Dr. Lee. "These people need medical care. I can't leave them." One by one, more people stepped forward. "I'm staying. We're staying. This is our home." In the end, almost everyone chose to stay. They were afraid, but they were not alone. They had each other, and they had a plan. It might not be a good plan, but it was their plan. As the crowd broke up and people went back to their homes and work places, Park looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the Veltar swarm was coming. But here on New Sol Colony, 32,000 people were getting ready to show them that humans did not give up easily. 3 weeks had passed since the Federation ships disappeared into space. The colony looked very different now. Where there used to be peaceful gardens and quiet walkways, there were now barriers made of metal sheets and concrete blocks. The sound of construction work never stopped, day or night. Captain Kim Tae-jin stood in what used to be the colony's main conference room. Now it was their military command center. The walls were covered with maps and charts showing every building, every road, and every hiding place in the colony. Red marks showed where they were building defenses. Blue marks showed where they were storing weapons and supplies. "How many mining lasers have we converted so far?" Kim asked engineer Jang Seok-ho. Jang wiped sweat from his face. He had been working without much sleep for days. 23 large ones and 41 smaller ones. The large ones can cut through Veltar bioarmor, but they need a lot of power. The smaller ones are good for close fighting, but they take time to recharge. What about the mining vehicles? We've turned 12 heavy diggers into fighting machines. We welded metal plates onto them for armor and mounted lasers on top. They're slow, but they can take a lot of damage. Jang looked tired but proud of his work. The problem is we don't have enough skilled people to operate all of them. Kim nodded. We'll train more people. What else do we need? Dr. Shin Eun-ji looked up from her computer screen. She had been working on the colony's power systems and communication equipment. I've managed to boost our communication array to reach 3 times further than before. I'm sending distress signals every hour, but so far, no one has answered. Keep trying, Kim said. Someone might hear us. I'm also working on a new power grid, Dr. Shin continued. If the Veltar attack our main power plant, we need backup systems. I'm connecting all the smaller generators so we can keep essential systems running even if they destroy the big ones. Commander Park walked into the room carrying a tablet computer. His face looked serious. I just got a report from our scout teams. Pilot Kang Do-hyun took one of our converted shuttles to the edge of the solar system yesterday. Everyone in the room stopped what they were doing and looked at Park. He found them, Park said quietly. The Veltar swarm. They're still 6 days away, but they're definitely coming here. Kim felt his stomach drop. How many ships? Kang counted at least 40 large bioships and maybe 200 smaller ones. But he thinks there might be more that he couldn't see. Park set his tablet down on the table. He also saw something else. The bioships are not just flying through space. They're growing. Growing? Dr. Shin asked. The Veltar ships are alive, Park explained. While they travel, they're making more warriors inside themselves. By the time they get here, each ship will be full of fighters ready to attack. Engineer Jang sat down heavily in a chair. Commander, I don't think our converted mining equipment can fight 40 military bioships. You're right, Park said. We can't fight them in space. But we don't have to. We just have to survive when they land here. Kim looked at the maps on the wall. What's our plan? Park pointed to different areas on the main map. We're going to turn this whole colony into a fortress. The Veltar will land their troops and try to take us quickly, but we're not going to make it easy for them. He pointed to the outer edge of the colony. We're building 3 defensive lines. The first line is just to slow them down and make noise. When the Veltar break through the first line, our people will fall back to the second line. The second line has stronger defenses and more weapons. When they break through that, we fall back to the third line. Where's the third line? Kim asked. Here. Park pointed to the center of the colony. The main administration building, the hospital, the school, and the residential towers. We're connecting all these buildings with underground tunnels. If we have to, we can fight building by building, room by room. Dr. Shin looked worried. Commander, what about the civilians? The children, the old people, the sick people who can't fight? They'll be in the safest places we can make, Park said. Deep underground with thick walls and their own air supply. Dr. Lee is setting up medical stations in the tunnels. Teacher Lim is organizing supplies for the children. Kim studied the map more carefully. This could work, but we need more people. Who know how to fight? Most of our colonists are farmers, engineers, and scientists. They're not soldiers. Then we turn them into soldiers, Park said. I've asked everyone who has military experience to become a training officer. We're going to teach basic fighting skills to anyone who can hold a weapon. Engineer Choi Woo-bin came into the command center. His hands were dirty from construction work, and he looked exhausted. But his eyes were determined. Commander, we've finished the underground tunnels between the main buildings. My team also installed blast doors that can seal off sections if the Veltar break through. Good work, Choi, Park said. How is your family doing? Choi's expression became softer. Mirai's helping Dr. Lee organize medical supplies. The girls are staying with the other children in the school bunker. They don't really understand what's coming, but they know it's dangerous. He paused. Commander, are we really going to survive this? Park looked at Choi, then at Kim, then at the other people in the room. I don't know, he said honestly. The Veltar have destroyed every human colony they've attacked. They're stronger than us, faster than us, and there are more of them. But we have something they don't have. What's that? Dr. Shin asked. We're fighting for our home, Park said. They're just hunting. There's a difference. Pilot Kang Do-hyun came running into the command center. His flight suit was still wet with sweat, and he was breathing hard. Commander, I just got back from another scouting run. The Veltar fleet has changed direction slightly. They're going to arrive sooner than we thought. Kim felt his heart start beating faster. How much sooner? 4 days, maybe less. Kang sat down and took a deep breath. I also saw something else. They launched smaller ships ahead of the main fleet, scout ships. They'll be here in 2 days. The room became very quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. 2 days was not much time to finish their preparations. How many scout ships? Park asked. I counted 6, Kang said. Each one looked like it could carry maybe 20 or 30 Veltar warriors. Park nodded slowly. The scouts will try to gather information about our defenses. They might also try to attack our communication systems or power plants. Kim looked at the maps again. We need to be ready for them. If we can fight off the scouts, it might give us information about how to fight the main force. I agree, Park said. Yang, how many of our converted weapons are ready to use right now? About half of them, Jang replied. We can have more ready in 2 days, but they won't be tested. Test them on the scouts, Park said. Dr. Shin, can you hide our main communication array? I can make it look like it's been destroyed while keeping it working, she said. I can also set up fake power readings to confuse their sensors. Park turned to Kang. I need you to keep watching the sky. If you see the scout ships coming, give us as much warning as possible. Yes, sir, Kang said. Park looked around the room at all the tired faces. These people had been working almost without sleep for 3 weeks. They were scared, but they were still working, still trying, still fighting. Everyone get some rest. Tonight, he said. Tomorrow we test our defenses against real enemies. After that, we'll know if our plan can work. As people started to leave the command center, Kim stayed behind with Park. Commander, Kim said quietly, what if our plan doesn't work? Park looked out the window at the colony. People were still working on the defenses, even though it was getting dark. Families were saying goodnight to each other, not knowing if they would see each other again. Children were playing in the safe areas, while their parents built walls to protect them. Then we'll try something else, Park said. We'll keep trying until we can't try anymore. Outside, the stars were shining in the clear night sky. Somewhere among those stars, the Veltar swarm was coming closer. But down on the colony, humans were getting ready to show them what it meant to fight for home. The alarm bells started ringing at 6 in the morning. Scout leader Bae Jin-soo was sitting in the observation tower when his sensors picked up the first signals. 6 dark shapes were moving through space toward the colony, just like Pilot Kang had predicted. This is Scout Leader Bae to Command Center, he said into his radio. The Veltar scout ships are here. They just entered our solar system. Commander Park's voice came back immediately. How long until they reach us? Bae looked at his instruments. The shapes were getting bigger on his screen, and he could see more details now. The Veltar ships didn't look like human ships at all. They were curved and organic, like giant insects flying through space. Parts of them seemed to be moving and changing shape even as he watched. "Maybe 6 hours," Bay said. "They're moving fast, but they're also scanning everything. I think they're looking for our defenses." "Keep watching them," Park said. "Tell us everything you see." Bay adjusted his telescope to get a better view. What he saw made his hands shake. The scout ships were not just flying toward the planet. They were growing. As he watched, one of the ships split open like a flower, and smaller shapes came out of it. Flying creatures with wings and claws, moving in perfect formation around the main ship. "Commander," Bay said, trying to keep his voice steady, "the ships are releasing flying creatures. Lots of them, maybe 50 or 60 from each ship." "What do they look like?" Captain Kim's voice joined the conversation, like giant wasps, but bigger than our shuttles. "They have long claws and what looks like weapons attached to their bodies." Bay watched the creatures circle around the main ships. "I think they're scouts, too. They might try to land before the big ships get here." Down in the colony, people were running to their positions. Engineer Jong Suk-ho climbed into one of the converted mining vehicles. The machine looked like a tank now, with thick metal plates welded onto its sides and a heavy laser cannon mounted on top. The laser was originally designed to cut through rock, but Jang had modified it to cut through much stronger things. "All defensive positions, this is command." Park's voice came over the radio system. "The enemy will be here in 6 hours. This is not a drill. All civilians should go to the safe areas immediately. All defense teams, prepare for combat." Dr. Lee So-min was in the main hospital, helping move patients to the underground medical center. Some of the sick people were too weak to walk, so volunteers carried them on stretchers. The underground area had thick concrete walls and its own air supply, but it was crowded and dark. "Doctor," said Medic Oh Sang-min, "we don't have enough medical supplies down here. If there are many injuries, we'll do what we can with what we have," Dr. Lee said. She was scared, but she kept working. "Move the surgical equipment to the backup operating room, and make sure we have plenty of bandages and pain medicine." Teacher Lim Hae-won was in the school building with 43 children. The youngest was only 4 years old. The oldest was 15. All of them were scared, and many were crying. The school had been turned into a fortress, too, with metal barriers over the windows and thick doors that could be locked from the inside. "Listen to me, everyone," Teacher Lim said in her calmest voice. "We're going to play a game. It's called the quiet game. We have to stay very quiet and very still until the grown-ups tell us the game is over." A little girl raised her hand. "Teacher Lim, why are there monsters coming?" "Because sometimes bad things happen," Teacher Lim said gently. "But the good people are going to protect us. Your parents, the soldiers, everyone is working together to keep us safe." Up in the observation tower, Bay was still watching the enemy ships. They were much closer now, and he could see them clearly. The main ships were huge, at least 3 times bigger than the largest human ships he had ever seen. Their surfaces were not smooth like human ships. Instead, they looked rough and bumpy, like the shell of some giant creature. "Command, this is." "Bay," he said into his radio. "I can see the ships much better now. They're not just ships. I think they're alive." "What do you mean?" Kim asked. "They're moving like living things. Parts of them expand and contract like they're breathing, and I can see what looks like eyes or sensors all over their surfaces." Bay paused, trying to understand what he was seeing. "There are also holes opening and closing on their sides. I think that's where the flying creatures come from." Professor Nam Gilsu was in his laboratory, reading everything he had written about the Veltar over the years. His hands were shaking, not just from age, but from fear. He knew more about these creatures than anyone else in the colony, and that knowledge made him more afraid, not less. "The Veltar don't just fight wars," he said to his assistant, Dr. Shin Yunji, who was helping him organize his research. "They consume everything. They eat other living things and use the energy to make more of themselves. That's why their ships are alive. They grow them instead of building them." "How do we fight something like that?" Dr. Shin asked. "We hurt them." "Faster than they can heal," Professor Nam said. "Veltar can regenerate from almost any wound, but it takes time and energy. If we damage them quickly and badly enough, they might not be able to recover." 2 hours later, the flying creatures reached the planet's atmosphere. Bay watched them through his telescope as they entered the sky like a dark cloud. They moved in perfect formation, circling the colony from high above. "They're here," he announced over the radio. "The flying scouts are circling us. I count 350 of them." Down in the colony, people looked up at the sky and saw the dark shapes moving overhead. The creatures were bigger than anyone had expected. Each one was the size of a small aircraft, with 6 wings and a long tail that ended in a sharp point. Their bodies were covered in what looked like natural armor, and they had claws that gleamed like metal. One of the creatures suddenly dove down toward the outer defensive line. Colonist Ryu Sung-hwan was manning a converted mining laser when he saw it coming. The creature was moving fast, but Ryu had been practicing for weeks. He aimed carefully and fired. The red laser beam hit the creature in the center of its body. The alien let out a horrible screaming sound and crashed into the ground, but within seconds, Ryu could see its wound starting to close up. "It's healing," he shouted into his radio. "The laser hurt it, but it's healing." "Hit it again," Kim's voice came back. "Don't let it recover." Ryu fired 3 more times. Each laser blast tore through the creature's body, and finally it stopped moving. But the fight had taken almost a minute, and Ryu's laser was now overheated and needed time to cool down. All around the colony, similar fights were happening. The Veltar scouts were testing the human defenses, diving down to attack and then flying away. Some were killed, but others escaped back to the main ships to report what they had learned. "Command, this is Defense Team 7, came a voice over the radio. "We killed 2 of them, but they're learning. The second one almost avoided our laser. They're getting smarter." Engineer Choi Woo-bin was operating one of the converted mining mechs. When a Veltar scout attacked his position, he grabbed it with the mech's large claws and crushed it. But even as he held the creature, he could feel it trying to bite through the metal with teeth that looked like knives. "These things are incredibly strong," he reported, "and they don't give up. Even when they're dying, they keep trying to fight." The battle with the scouts continued for 3 hours. The colonists managed to kill about 60 of the creatures, but they learned something frightening. The Veltar were not just mindless animals. They were intelligent, and they were studying human tactics. "Commander," Bay said from his observation tower, "the remaining scouts are returning to the main ships. But I'm seeing a lot of activity on those ships now. I think they're getting ready for the real attack." Park's voice came over the radio to everyone in the colony. "All teams, listen carefully. We just fought our first battle against the Veltar and we won. But this was just the beginning. The main fleet will be here in 3 hours, and they will have thousands of warriors, not just a few hundred scouts." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was strong and clear. "We learned important things today. We can kill them, but it takes multiple hits. They heal quickly, but they can't heal from everything. Most importantly, we can fight them and win." Throughout the colony, people checked their weapons and prepared for the real battle. They had faced the Veltar and survived. Now they knew what they were fighting, and they were ready to defend their home. The main fleet was coming, but the humans of New Sol Colony were no longer afraid of the unknown. They had looked their enemy in the face, and they were still standing. The main Veltar fleet arrived just as the sun was setting. Scout leader Bei Jinsu watched from his tower as 40 massive bioships dropped out of hyperspace and began moving toward the planet. Each ship was the size of a small city, and they moved through space like giant sea creatures swimming through dark water. "Command, this is Bei," he said into his radio, trying to keep his voice steady. "The main fleet is here. They're huge. Much bigger than I thought they would be." "How long until they reach us?" Commander Park asked. Bay looked at his instruments, but the readings were confusing. The Veltar ships were not following normal physics. They seemed to be bending space around themselves, moving faster than should be possible. "Maybe 2 hours," he said. "But, Commander, there's something else. The ships are opening up. I can see thousands of smaller shapes coming out of them." Down in the colony, people heard the news and felt their hearts sink. Thousands of enemies were coming, and they only had a few hundred fighters with converted mining equipment. Captain Kim Tae-jin was in the first defensive line with 20 other colonists. They had set up their position behind barriers made of metal sheets and concrete blocks. Their weapons were mining lasers that had been modified for fighting, but Kim knew these were not real military weapons. "Everyone stay calm," Kim said to his team. "Remember what we learned from fighting the scouts. Multiple hits to kill each enemy. Don't waste shots. Work together." Engineer Jang Seok-ho was operating one of the converted mining mechs about 1 kilometer away. Through his mech's sensors, he could see the first wave of Veltar landing craft approaching. They looked like huge insects with multiple legs and wings, carrying what looked like eggs or pods underneath their bodies. "Command, this is Jang," he said over the radio. "I can see the first landing craft. They're carrying something. Maybe troops, maybe equipment. They're heading for the outer farmlands." The first Veltar landing craft touched down in the agricultural area outside the main colony. As soon as they landed, their sides split open like flowers blooming. What came out made even the bravest colonists feel afraid. Veltar warriors were nothing like the flying scouts. They stood 3 meters tall and had 6 powerful arms, ending in claws that could cut through metal. Their bodies were covered in natural armor that looked like black crystal. Their heads had 4 eyes that glowed red in the darkness, and their mouths were full of teeth designed for tearing flesh, but the most frightening thing about them was how they moved. They didn't walk like humans or even like animals. They flowed across the ground like liquid death, moving so fast that human eyes could barely follow them. "First defensive line, this is command," Park's voice came over the radio. "Enemy ground. Forces are approaching your position. Hold your ground and fight smart. Fall back to the second line when I give the order." Kim watched through his scope as dozens of Veltar warriors ran toward their position. The creatures moved in perfect coordination, like they were all controlled by the same mind. Some ran straight forward while others spread out to attack from the sides. "Open fire!" Kim shouted. 20 mining lasers fired at once, sending red beams of energy toward the charging Veltar. Several creatures were hit and fell to the ground, but most kept running. The ones that were hit started healing immediately, their wounds closing as Kim watched. "Keep firing!" Kim yelled. "Don't let them. Heal!" The colonists fired again and again. Some Veltar warriors fell and didn't get up, but others reached the defensive line. Kim saw one creature jump over a 3-meter barrier like it was nothing. Its claws tore through the metal wall like it was made of paper. Colonist Ryu Sung-hwan was operating a laser cannon when a Veltar warrior appeared right in front of him. The creature was so close he could see his reflection in its 4 red eyes. Ryu fired his weapon point blank into the creature's chest. The laser beam went completely through its body, but the warrior still had enough strength to swipe at Ryu. With its claws, Ryu jumped back just in time. The claws missed his head by centimeters and cut deep grooves in the concrete wall behind him. He fired again, and this time, the creature finally collapsed. "Fall back!" Kim shouted into his radio. "First line, fall back to second defensive position." The colonists grabbed their weapons and ran toward the second defensive line. Behind them, more Veltar warriors poured over their abandoned barriers, like a dark flood. Some colonists didn't run fast enough. Kim heard screaming over the radio, then silence. The second defensive line was stronger than the first. It had thicker walls, more weapons, and better positions for the defenders. Engineer Choi Woo-bin was there with his mining mech, along with 30 other colonists who had heavier equipment. "Here they come!" someone shouted. The Veltar warriors flowed around the barriers of the first line and charged toward the second. But this time, the colonists were ready for them. Heavy mining lasers fired from protected positions. Converted. Construction vehicles shot explosive mining charges at groups of enemies. Choi used his mech's large claws to grab a Veltar warrior and slam it into the ground. The creature's armor cracked, and green liquid that must have been its blood spilled out. But even with its body broken, the warrior tried to climb up the mech's arm to attack Choi in his cockpit. "These things don't know how to give up," Choi said over the radio as he shook the creature off and stepped on it with his mech's heavy foot. Dr. Shin Yoon-ji was in the colony's power center, trying to keep the electrical systems running while the battle raged outside. Every time the defenders fired their weapons, it used a lot of power. The colony's generators were working at maximum capacity. "Command, this is Dr. Shin," she said into her radio. "Power levels are dropping fast. If we keep using the heavy weapons, like this, we'll run out of electricity in 2 hours. "Can you switch to backup power?" Park asked. "I already am. All our generators are running, but the weapons use too much energy." Dr. Shin looked at her control panels. Numbers were dropping rapidly. "We need to find another way to fight them, or we need to use fewer weapons." Meanwhile, in the underground medical center, Dr. Lee So-min was treating wounded colonists who had escaped from the first defensive line. The injuries were terrible. Veltar claws cut through human bodies like they were made of soft clay. "Doctor, we need more blood for transfusions," Medic Oh Sang-min said. His hands were covered in blood and his face was pale. "And we're running out of pain medicine." "Use what we have," Dr. Lee said as she worked on a colonist whose arm had been nearly cut off. "Save the strong medicine for the worst cases." A young woman was brought in on a stretcher. She had been operating a laser cannon when a Veltar warrior got past their defenses. Her leg was badly cut and she was losing a lot of blood. "Doctor," the woman whispered, "how many of them are there? It seemed like they never stopped coming." Dr. Lee bandaged the woman's leg and tried to look confident. "Our people are fighting hard. We're going to make it through this." But privately, Dr. Lee was worried. If this many people were getting hurt in just the first hour of fighting, what would happen when the main battle really began? Back at the second defensive line, the fighting was getting worse. More Veltar landing craft were arriving every few minutes, bringing fresh warriors to replace the ones that had been killed. The colonists were fighting well, but they were getting tired, and their weapons were running out of power. "Command, this is Kim," the captain said over the radio. "We've killed maybe 200 Veltar, but there are still hundreds more coming. And I'm seeing something new. Bigger creatures. They look like tanks made of living armor." Park's voice came back immediately. "Can your weapons hurt them?" Kim watched as one of the new creatures walked toward their position. It was twice as tall as the warrior Veltar and much thicker. Mining laser beams hit it and bounced off its armor like they were just bright lights. "Negative," Kim said. "Our standard weapons are not working on the big ones." "Fall back to the third defensive line," Park ordered. "All teams, begin retreat to the final positions." As the colonists ran back toward the center of the colony, they could see how much damage had been done. Buildings were on fire. Dead Veltar warriors lay everywhere, but so did the bodies of colonists who hadn't been fast enough or lucky enough to escape. Engineer Jang Seok-ho looked back at the outer areas of the colony as he retreated in his mech. The Veltar were not just destroying things, they were eating them. The creatures were consuming the metal, the concrete, even the plants, and using the materials to heal their wounds and grow stronger. "They're not just invading us," he said over the radio. "They're consuming our entire colony." Commander Park was in the central command bunker, watching reports come in from all around the colony. The situation was very bad. They had lost the outer two defensive lines in less than 4 hours. Many colonists were dead or wounded. Their weapons were running low on power, and the enemy seemed to have unlimited numbers. But Park was not ready to give up. The colonists had made it to the final defensive positions, the connected buildings in the center of the colony. Here, they could fight from building to building, room to room if necessary. The Veltar might be stronger and more numerous, but this was still the humans' home. All remaining defenders, Park said over the radio. This is our final stand. We hold. These buildings, or we... Commander Park Hyun-woo stood in the central command bunker, deep underground beneath the main administration building. The walls around him shook every few seconds as Veltar weapons hit the surface above. Dust fell from the ceiling with each impact, and the lights flickered constantly. "Report," he said to Captain Kim, who had just returned from the surface fighting. Kim's uniform was torn and covered in green Veltar blood. His left arm was bandaged, and he looked exhausted. "Sir, we've lost the school building and the residential towers. The Veltar have surrounded the hospital and the administration building. We're trapped." Park looked at the tactical display on his computer screen. Red dots showed Veltar positions all around their remaining buildings. There were thousands of them, with more arriving every hour. "How many of our people are left?" Park asked. "Maybe 800 still fighting," Kim said quietly. "Another 2,000 civilians in the deep bunkers. We've lost..." He paused and closed his eyes. "We've lost over 20,000 people, sir." Park felt the weight of those numbers like a physical blow. 20,000 people. Families, friends, neighbors, all dead because the Federation had decided they weren't worth saving. "Sir," Communications Officer Im Ye-jin called from her station. "I'm still sending distress signals, but no one is answering. I've tried every frequency, every emergency channel. Either no one can hear us, or no one cares." Park walked over to her station. The communication equipment was badly damaged from the constant attacks, held together with spare parts and hope. "Keep trying," he said. "Send the message on all channels, all languages. Maybe someone out there will listen." Dr. Shin Yoon-ji came running down the stairs into the bunker. Her clothes were dirty, and her face was streaked with sweat. "Commander, the power grid is failing. The Veltar have destroyed most of our generators. We have maybe 6 hours of power left, and then everything will shut down." "What about the weapons?" Park asked. "The heavy lasers are already offline. We're down to small arms and whatever battery power we have stored." Dr. Shin looked at her tablet computer. "But sir, there's something else. I've been monitoring Veltar communications." Park raised his eyebrows. "You can understand their signals?" "Not the language, but I can see the patterns. They're not just attacking randomly, they're coordinating with something. Something big is coming." Before Park could ask what she meant, Engineer Jang Seok-ho's voice came over the radio from somewhere. "In the hospital building. Command, this is Jang. I'm seeing something new outside. The Veltar have stopped attacking. They're all moving back about a kilometer and just waiting." Park grabbed his radio. "Waiting for what?" "I don't know, sir. But they've formed a big circle around us. Thousands of them just standing there, and I can hear something, a sound like singing, but not human singing." Up in the observation tower, Scout Leader Bae Jin-soo was trying to see what was happening through his damaged telescope. Most of his equipment had been destroyed, but he could still make out shapes in the darkness. "Command," he said over the radio. "The Veltar bioships in orbit are doing something. They're all moving into formation above us, and there's something coming down from space. Something big." Park felt his stomach drop. How big? Bigger than their other ships. Much bigger. It's like a flying mountain. In the underground medical center, Dr. Lee So-min was working on a wounded colonist when the ground started shaking differently. Not the sharp impacts of weapons, but a deep, constant vibration that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "What's happening?" asked Medic Oh Sang-min. Dr. Lee looked up at the ceiling. The vibration was getting stronger. Medical equipment started sliding across tables. Glass containers fell to the floor and shattered. "Something very large just landed," she said. The vibration continued for several minutes, then stopped. For the first time in hours, the colony was completely quiet. No weapons, firing, no explosions, no sounds of battle, just silence. Then the singing started. It began as a low humming sound that seemed to come from the ground itself, but gradually it got louder and more complex. Thousands of Veltar voices joined together in a sound that was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. In the school bunker, teacher Lim Hai-wan tried to keep the children calm as the singing grew louder. The youngest ones were crying and covering their ears. The older children looked scared but fascinated. "Teacher," asked a 10-year-old boy, "what are they singing about?" Teacher Lim didn't know how to answer. The sound was unlike anything she had ever heard. It was alien, but there was something in it that seemed almost familiar, like a lullaby, but darker. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But we're safe down here. The grown-ups are protecting us." Professor Nam Gil-soo was in his laboratory, listening to the singing and reading through his research notes. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. From excitement. "Dr. Shin," he called over the radio. "Can you record the Veltar singing? All frequencies, everything you can capture." "Why?" Dr. Shin's voice came back. "Because I think I understand what's happening. The Veltar don't just fight wars, they perform rituals. This singing, it's not random. It's a pattern, a code." Professor Nam's voice was getting more excited. "They're communicating with something important." Above ground, Commander Park climbed up from the bunker to see what was happening. What he saw made him stop breathing. A Veltar ship the size of a city had landed in the center of the colony. It was not like the other bioships. This one was ancient, covered in growths and structures that looked like they had been growing for thousands of years. It pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that matched the rhythm of the singing, and from the ship, something was emerging. It was not a Veltar warrior. It was something much older and much more intelligent. It stood 5 meters tall and had a body that seemed to be made of living crystal. Its eyes were not red like the warriors, but deep blue, like stars. When it moved, the air around it shimmered. "Command," Bay's voice came over the radio, full of awe. I think that's their leader. Their queen or king or whatever they call it." The creature began walking toward the administration building where Park was standing. The Veltar warriors moved aside to create a path, never stopping their singing. The creature moved slowly with great dignity, like it was performing a ceremony. When it was about 50 meters away, it stopped and looked directly at Park. Despite the distance, Park felt like those blue eyes were looking right into his soul. Then it spoke. The voice came from everywhere at once, not just from the creature's mouth. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, the common language used throughout human space. "Humans of this place," the voice said, deep and musical. "I am the Veltar Prime. I speak for the Swarm. You have fought well against our warriors. You have earned the right to hear our words before you die." Park stepped forward, his heart pounding. "Why are you doing this? Why are you destroying our colony?" "Because we must," the Prime replied. "It is our nature to consume and grow. We take the energy of other life to feed our own. But you—" The creature tilted its head, studying Park. "You are different from the others we have conquered." "How are we different?" "You were abandoned by your own kind. Yet you did not surrender. You fought to protect those who could not fight. You chose to die with honor, rather than live with shame." The Prime's voice carried something that might have been respect. "This is unusual." Park felt anger rising in his chest. "If you respect us, then why don't you leave us alone?" "Because respect and mercy are not the same thing," the Prime said. "We honor your courage, but we still require your life energy. However, because you have impressed us, we offer you a choice." The singing stopped suddenly, leaving the night completely silent. "What choice?" Park asked. "Submit now, and your death will be quick and painless. Continue to resist, and we will consume you slowly, keeping you alive as long as possible to savor your life force." The Prime's eyes glowed brighter. "Choose wisely, human leader." Park looked back at the administration building, knowing that hundreds of his people were listening to this conversation over the radio. He thought about the children hiding in the bunkers, the wounded in the medical center, the fighters who had already given their lives. Then he looked back at the Veltar Prime and smiled. "We choose to keep fighting," he said. "And we choose to make you regret ever coming to our home?" The Prime stared at him for a long moment. Then, to Park's surprise, it made a sound that might have been laughter. "Fascinating," it said. "You choose certain death over possible mercy. We have not encountered such foolishness in a very long time." The creature turned and began walking back toward its ship. As it moved, it spoke one more time. "Very well, humans. You will have your glorious death. But first, you will watch as we consume everything you have built and everyone you love. Only then will you understand the true price of defiance." The singing resumed, louder than before. But now Park could hear something else in the sound. Anticipation. The Veltar were looking forward to what came next. Park went back down to the bunker, where his remaining people were waiting for orders. "Well?" Captain Kim asked. "They offered us an easy death if we surrender," Park said. "And you told them?" Park picked up his rifle and checked its power level. I told them we'd rather make them work for it. The sky above New Sol Colony suddenly filled with fire and light. But this was not Veltar fire. This was something else entirely. Communications Officer Im Ye-jin was the first to notice the change. She was still sending distress signals when her equipment started picking up new transmissions. The signals were strong, much stronger than anything the colony could produce. "Commander!" she called out, her voice filled with excitement and disbelief. "I'm getting incoming signals, multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace." Commander Park ran to her station. "Federation ships?" "No, sir," Im said, studying her screens. "The transmission patterns are different. I've never seen anything like this before. But they're definitely human ships. And they're big." Above the planet, space itself seemed to tear open as massive ships emerged from hyperspace. The lead ship was unlike anything the colonists had ever seen. It was twice the size of the largest Federation vessel, painted in dark gray with bright blue markings along its hull. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Terran dreadnought Indomitable, looking down at the planet below. Her crew had been traveling through unexplored space for months when they picked up the colony's distress signal. What they found was worse than they had imagined. "Tactical report," Admiral Chen said to her operations officer. "Ma'am, we count 42 Veltar bio ships in orbit and one massive command vessel on the planet's surface. Ground sensors show approximately 15,000 Veltar warriors surrounding what appears to be the last human settlement." Admiral Chen studied the tactical display. She had never seen Veltar ships before, but she had read about them in intelligence reports. Living vessels that grew instead of being built. An enemy that consumed everything in its path. "Communications, can you reach the colony?" "Yes, ma'am. We're picking up their distress beacon. They're still broadcasting." "Open a channel." Down in the colony's command bunker, Im Ye-jin nearly fell out of her chair when a new voice came through her speakers. It was a woman's voice, speaking in accented galactic standard that sounded different from Federation speech. "New Sol Colony, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. We have received your distress signal. Hold your positions. Help is coming." Commander Park grabbed the radio microphone. "Admiral Chen, this is Commander Park of New Sol Colony. We are surrounded by hostile forces. We have maybe 800 fighters left and 2,000 civilians. The enemy has offered us surrender or death." "Commander Park," Admiral Chen's voice came back immediately. "This is Admiral Chen. We choose neither. Prepare for immediate combat. Support." Park looked around the bunker at his people. They were staring at the radio in amazement. After weeks of being abandoned, after being told no one cared if they lived or died, someone had come to help them. "Admiral," Park said, "who are you?" "We've never heard of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet." "Long story, Commander. We'll explain after we deal with your immediate problem." "How copy?" Before Park could answer, the ground above them shook with a sound like thunder. But this was not Veltar weapons. This was something much more powerful. On the surface, the Veltar. Prime looked up at the sky as human ships appeared through the clouds. These ships were different from the Federation vessels it had encountered before. They moved faster, their weapons glowed with different colors, and their hulls seemed to shimmer with some kind of protective field. Interesting, the Prime said to itself. More humans have come to die. The Prime raised one of its crystal arms and made a gesture. Immediately, dozens of Veltar bioships in orbit turned toward the human fleet and began firing. Bioplasma, beams, and living missiles streaked through space toward the Terran ships. Admiral Chen watched the incoming fire on her tactical display. Shields up! All weapons! Return fire! Show these creatures what Terran engineering can do! The Indomitable fired its main cannon. The weapon was not a laser or plasma beam like Federation technology. It was a kinetic accelerator that fired metal. Projectiles at incredible speed, the projectile hit a Veltar bioship and went completely through it, then hit another ship behind it. Direct hit, the tactical officer reported. Both targets are destroyed. Around the Indomitable, 12 other Terran ships opened fire. Destroyers, cruisers, and fighters all attacking the Veltar fleet with weapons the bioships had never encountered before. The Veltar weapons that easily destroyed Federation shields bounced harmlessly off Terran force fields. Captain Maria Santos commanded the destroyer Retribution. She watched her ship's weapons tear through Veltar bio-armor like it was made of paper. These things regenerate from energy weapons, but they can't heal from kinetic damage, she reported to the fleet. Keep using solid projectiles. On the planet's surface, the Veltar warriors surrounding the colony looked up at the battle in space. Many of their ships were being destroyed, but the Prime did not seem concerned. Ground forces, the Prime commanded. In its musical voice, destroy the human settlement immediately. Do not wait for orbital support. Thousands of Veltar warriors began charging toward the administration building, where the colonists were making their final stand. But as they ran, the sky above them filled with fire. Commander James Murphy was leading the Marine assault ship, Vanguard. His ship was designed for planetary assaults, and it carried 300 drop pods filled with Terran Marines in powered armor. All Marines, this is command, Murphy said over the radio. We are going in hot. Enemy forces are surrounding friendly civilians. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Protect those people. The drop pods fell from the sky like meteors, crashing into the ground around the colony. Each pod opened to reveal a Terran Marine in advanced powered armor, carrying weapons that the Veltar had never seen before. Major Robert Harrison was the first Marine to engage the enemy. His powered armor made him as tall as a Veltar warrior, but much faster. When a Veltar charged at him with its claws extended, Harrison shot it with a plasma rifle that burned through bio-armor instantly. "Contact!" Harrison reported. "Enemy!" Warriors are tough, but not immune to concentrated plasma fire. Recommend sustained fire to prevent regeneration. Sergeant Maria Vasquez led a squad of Marines toward the administration building where the colonists were trapped. Veltar warriors tried to block her path, but the Marines' weapons were designed to fight heavily armored enemies. Each shot from their rifles caused damage that the Veltar could not heal from. "Commander Park?" Vasquez called over the radio. "This is Terran Marine Sergeant Vasquez. We are advancing to your position. Can you mark your people so we don't shoot? The wrong targets?" In the bunker, Park could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Sergeant, our people are in the buildings. Everyone outside is hostile. Copy that. Moving to secure the area. The battle on the surface was unlike anything the colonists had ever seen. The Terran Marines moved like they were dancing, their powered armor allowing them to jump over obstacles and dodge Veltar attacks. Their weapons fired so fast that the sound was like continuous thunder. But the most amazing thing was that they were winning. Engineer Jang Seok-ho was still in his converted mining mech when the Marines reached his position. A Veltar warrior was trying to tear open his cockpit when a Marine appeared and shot the creature with some kind of energy weapon that made it simply disappear. "Are you injured?" the Marine asked. Jang stared at the armored figure. Who are you people?" "Terran Colonial Marines," the soldier replied. "We're here to help. Can you still fight?" "Yes," Jang said, still amazed. "Yes, I can fight." "Good. Follow us. We're going to clear out the rest of these things." All around the colony, similar scenes were playing out. Terran Marines worked alongside colonial defenders, their advanced technology and training turning the tide of battle. The Veltar warriors that had seemed unstoppable were being systematically destroyed. But the Veltar Prime was not finished yet. The ancient creature walked to the center of its bioship and placed its hands on what looked like a living control panel. The ship began to glow with bioluminescent patterns, and a sound like singing filled the air. "If we cannot consume this place slowly," the Prime said, "then we will consume it all at once." In space above the planet, the remaining Veltar bioships began moving into a formation around the planet. They were preparing for something that would destroy everything on the surface, human and Veltar alike. Admiral Chen saw the formation on her tactical display. "Tactical? What are they doing?" "Unknown, ma'am. But they're drawing power from the planet's magnetic field. Whatever they're planning, it's going to be big." Chen looked at the display for a moment, then made her decision. "All ships, target the bioships in formation. We need to break up whatever they're doing, and get me a direct line to the surface." A few seconds later, Chen was speaking to Commander Park. "Commander, we've broken the siege, but the Veltar are preparing some kind of final attack. We need to get your people off the planet." "Admiral," Park said, "we have 2,000 civilians who can't be moved quickly, and many wounded." "We'll figure something out," Chen said. "But first we need to deal with their command ship, the big one on your surface." Park looked toward the surface, knowing that somewhere above them, the ancient Veltar Prime was planning something terrible. "Admiral," he said, "what do you need us to do?" Admiral Sarah Chen materialized in the colony's command bunker in a shimmer of blue light. Commander Park stared in amazement as the woman appeared from nothing, wearing a military uniform unlike any he had ever seen. "Transporter technology," Admiral Chen explained, seeing his expression. "We'll have time for explanations later. Right now, we need to coordinate our attack on that command ship." Park looked at the woman who had come to save them. She was tall and confident, with gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. Her uniform was dark blue with silver markings, and she carried weapons that looked far more advanced than anything the Federation used. "Admiral," Park said, "we're grateful for your help. But that creature up there, the Veltar Prime, it's planning something terrible. Our scientist thinks it's some kind of final attack." "We know," Chen said. "Our sensors show the bioships are drawing massive amounts of energy from your planet's core. If they complete whatever they're doing, it will destroy everything on the surface." Dr. Shin Yun-ji stepped forward. "Admiral, I've been studying their communication patterns. The Veltar Prime is not just controlling the warriors here. It's connected to all the bioships in orbit. If we can disrupt that connection, the entire fleet might become confused," Chen finished. "That's good thinking. What do you need?" Before Dr. Shin could answer, Professor Nam Gilsu spoke up from his wheelchair. "Admiral, I've spent my life studying the Veltar. Their command structure is based on harmonic frequencies. Each prime has a unique frequency that controls its swarm. If we can find the right frequency and reverse it, we could turn their own communication system against them," Chen nodded. "Doctor, can your equipment generate those kinds of frequencies?" "Not alone," Professor Nam said. "But if your ships could amplify our signal, we can do that," Chen said. She touched a device on her wrist. "Chen to Indomitable. I need Chief Engineer Wong to beam down with a portable amplifier array." A few seconds later, another person appeared in the blue transporter light. This was a woman in an engineering uniform carrying equipment that looked incredibly advanced. "Commander Park," Admiral Chen said, "this is Chief Engineer Patricia Wong. Patricia, we need to amplify a harmonic frequency strong enough to disrupt Veltar command signals." Engineer Wong looked around the damaged bunker, then at Professor Nam's research equipment. "I can work with this," she said, "but we'll need to get closer to the command ship, maybe within a kilometer." Captain Kim stepped forward. "That's impossible. There are still thousands of Veltar warriors between us and that ship." "Not anymore," came a voice from the stairs. Major Robert Harrison descended into the bunker, his powered armor making heavy sounds on the metal steps. "We've cleared most of the area around the colony. My Marines can escort you to the command ship." Park looked at the Marine in amazement. "You cleared thousands of enemies?" "We had help," Harrison said. "Your people fought alongside us. Engineer Jang and his mech took out about 50 warriors. Pilot Kang has been flying air support with one of our fighters. Your colonists are tougher than they look." Admiral Chen studied the tactical map on Park's computer. "Here's the plan. We establish a forward position here, about 800 meters from the Veltar command ship. Professor Nam and Engineer Wong set up the harmonic disruptor. Meanwhile, my fleet keeps the orbital bioships busy." "What about the Prime itself?" Park asked. "That creature is incredibly powerful." "That's where you come in, Commander. This is your colony, your people. The Prime will expect us to attack, but it won't expect you to lead the assault personally." Park felt his heart start beating faster. "You want me to fight that thing? I want you to distract it while we set up the disruptor," Chen said. "The Prime spoke to you before. It respects courage. Use that." An hour later, a mixed force of Terran Marines and colonial fighters was moving through the ruins of the outer colony. The area looked like a war zone. Buildings were destroyed, vehicles were overturned, and the ground was covered with the bodies of dead Veltar warriors. Commander Park carried a Terran energy rifle that felt strange in his hands. It was much lighter than colonial weapons, but Admiral Chen had assured him it could kill anything the Veltar had. Beside him walked Engineer Jang in his converted mining mech, now equipped with Terran weapon systems. The mech looked like a walking tank, bristling with guns and armor. "Commander," Jang said over the radio, "I never thought I'd see the day when humans from other worlds would come to save us." "Neither did I," Park replied. "But I'm grateful they did." Behind them, Professor Nam was being carried in a special chair that could move over rough ground. He was working with Engineer Wong to calibrate the harmonic disruptor, a device that looked like a collection of metal dishes and crystal arrays. "The frequency has to be exact," Professor Nam explained. "Too high and it won't affect the prime. Too low and it might just make it angry." "Don't worry," Wong said. "Terran engineering is very precise. We'll get it right." As they approached the Veltar command ship, Park could see the massive bio-vessel clearly for the first time. It was even more impressive up close. The ship looked like it had been grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "My God," whispered Dr. Shin, who was part of the technical team. "It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." The Veltar Prime emerged from the ship as they approached. The ancient creature moved with slow dignity, its crystal body reflecting the light from the burning buildings around them. When it spoke, its voice carried across the battlefield. "So the new humans have come to die with the old humans," the Prime said. "How touching! But you cannot stop what has already begun. My fleet is drawing power from your planet's core. Soon, this world will be consumed completely." Admiral Chen's voice came over the radio from orbit. "Commander, we're seeing massive energy buildup in the bioships. Whatever they're doing, you need to hurry." Park stepped forward, leaving his escort behind. "Prime, I want to talk to you." The creature tilted its head, studying him. "You are the leader who chose death over surrender. What could you possibly have to say that would interest me?" "I want to understand," Park said, walking closer. "Why do you do this? Why do you destroy everything you touch?" "Because it is our nature," the Prime replied. "We are life-consuming. Life, growing stronger with each world we devour. It is the most honest form of existence." "But what's the point?" Park asked, still moving closer. Behind him, he could hear Professor Nam and Engineer Wong setting up their equipment. "What do you do with all that power? What do you build? What do you create?" The Prime's blue eyes seemed to glow brighter. "We create more of ourselves. We spread throughout the galaxy, bringing our perfect order to chaos." "That's not creation," Park said. "That's just consumption. You're not building anything. You're just eating everything and calling it progress." For the first time, the Prime seemed slightly unsure. "You do not understand. Your species builds temporary things. Cities that crumble, ships that break, lives that end. We build things that last forever." "No," Park said, now only 20 meters from the creature. "You destroy things that could last forever. Every person you kill, every world. You consume every family you break apart. Those are opportunities lost forever. You're not creating perfection. You're creating emptiness. Behind him, Professor Nam's voice whispered over the radio. "Ready in 30 seconds." The Prime took a step toward Park, its massive form casting a shadow over him. "Your words are meaningless. In moments, your world will feed our fleet, and we will move on to devour the next world and the next. Your species will be forgotten." "Maybe," Park said, "but we'll be remembered by the people who came to save us. The Terrans didn't have to come here. They could have stayed safe in their own space. But they heard our call for help, and they came. That's what humans do. We help each other." The Prime raised one of its crystal arms, energy beginning to gather around its claws. "Enough words. It is time for you to die." "Now!" Park shouted. The harmonic disruptor activated with a sound like 1,000 bells ringing at once. The frequency wave hit the Veltar Prime and spread outward, reaching every bioship in orbit and every warrior on the ground. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Prime staggered backward, its crystal body flickering like a broken light. Its connection to the swarm was being disrupted, confused, turned against itself. "Impossible!" the Prime screamed, its voice no longer musical but harsh and distorted. "The harmonic matrix is perfect. It cannot be broken." "Your matrix was designed to control?" Professor Nam's voice came over the speakers. "But we've reversed it. Now, instead of sending commands, it's sending chaos. In orbit, the Veltar bioships began to drift apart, their coordination destroyed. Some started attacking each other, unable to distinguish friend from enemy. Others simply stopped moving, their crews confused and directionless. Admiral Chen's voice came over the radio. "Direct hit! The bioships are breaking formation. They're no longer drawing power from the planet." But the Veltar Prime was not finished. With a roar of rage, it charged toward Park, moving faster than anything that large should be able to move. Park raised his energy rifle and fired. The Terran weapon sent a beam of pure energy into the Prime's chest, burning through its crystal armor. 1 month after the battle, New Sol Colony looked completely different. Where there had once been ruins and destruction, new buildings were rising. But these were not just colonial structures. They were a mixture of human and Terran designs, stronger and more beautiful than anything the colony had built before. Commander Park stood on the observation deck of the new administration building, watching construction crews work below. Some of the workers were colonists, but others wore the uniforms of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet, humans from different worlds, working together to rebuild what had been lost. "The medical center will be finished next week," Dr. Lee So-min said, joining Park on the observation deck. She looked much healthier now than she had during the siege. Good food and proper rest had helped heal the exhaustion and stress of those terrible days. "How are the wounded doing?" Park asked. "Much better. The Terran medical technology is amazing. People who we thought would never walk again are already back on their feet." Dr. Lee smiled. "I've learned more about medicine in the past month than I did in 5 years of Federation training. And the psychological treatment?" Dr. Lee's expression became more serious. "That will take longer. Many people are still having nightmares about the Veltar, the children especially. But Teacher Lim has been working with Terran counselors and..." They're making progress. Park nodded. The battle had been won, but the scars would take time to heal. Still, they were alive to heal, and that was more than they had dared hope for during those dark days. Admiral Sarah Chen walked up the stairs to join them. She was wearing a civilian jacket instead of her military uniform, and she looked more relaxed than Park had ever seen her. "Commander," she said with a smile, "I have some news that I think you'll want to hear." "Good news, I hope." "Very good news. The Terran Council has approved full membership for New Sol Colony in the Independent Worlds Alliance. You're officially no longer a Federation colony." Park felt his heart skip a beat. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means you're free," Admiral Chen said. "No more Federation taxes. No more Federation laws that don't make sense for your situation. No more being abandoned when things get difficult. You're part of our alliance now, and we take care of our own." Dr. Lee looked confused. "But Admiral, we've never heard of the Independent Worlds Alliance. The Federation told us that all human colonies were part of their government." Admiral Chen's expression became slightly bitter. "The Federation likes to think they control all of human space. But 50 years ago, many colonies decided they were tired of being controlled by politicians who lived hundreds of light years away and had never visited the worlds they were governing." She gestured toward the window where Terran ships could be seen in orbit around the planet. "We formed our own alliance, independent worlds helping each other, trading with each other, defending each other. We've been exploring beyond Federation space, finding lost colonies and helping them join us if they want to." "How many worlds are in your alliance?" Park asked. 87 now, with New Sol Colony being the 88th. We have our own fleet, our own trade networks, our own research programs. And unlike the Federation, we never abandon our people. Captain Kim Tae-jin came up the stairs, carrying a tablet computer. "Commander, I have the final casualty report from the battle." Park took the tablet, knowing the numbers would be painful to read. "How many did we lose?" 21,463 people, Kim said quietly. "But, sir, we saved almost 11,000. Without the Terran fleet, none of us would have survived." Admiral Chen placed a hand on Park's shoulder. "Commander, I know those numbers are hard to accept, but I want you to know that your sacrifice saved many other worlds. We've shared the harmonic frequency weapon with all our colonies. The next time the Veltar attack anywhere, we'll be ready for them." "Have there been other attacks?" Dr. Lee asked. 3 more systems in the past month," Admiral Chen said. "But because of what Professor Nam discovered here, we were able to defeat the Veltar fleets before they reached the planets. Thousands of lives were saved because of what your people learned during the siege." Engineer Jang Seok-ho walked onto the observation deck. His arm was still in a sling from the battle, but he was smiling. "Commander, the new defense grid is online. If anyone tries to attack us again, they're going to get a very unpleasant surprise." Park looked at the defense installations that were being built around the colony. They were not just human weapons, but a combination of colonial engineering and Terran technology. Mining lasers had been replaced with plasma cannons. Early warning systems used both human sensors and Terran quantum detection arrays. "Jang, Have you made a decision about the engineering exchange program? Admiral Chen asked. Zhang nodded enthusiastically. Yes, Admiral. My family and I would like to spend 2 years on Terra Prime learning about your technology. My daughters are very excited about seeing the home world of humanity. Park smiled. Many colonists were taking advantage of opportunities to visit other worlds in the Alliance, to learn new skills and see how other humans lived. Some, like Engineer Choi and his family, had decided to relocate permanently to Terran worlds. Others, like Park himself, had chosen to stay and help rebuild New Sol Colony. Commander, Admiral Chen said, I have one more piece of news. The Terran Council has offered you a commission in our fleet. The rank of Admiral in command of the new Colonial Defense Division. Park was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the offer. Leading a fleet, protecting other colonies from threats like the Veltar, making sure no other world would be abandoned like they had been. It's a tempting offer, he said finally, but I think my place is here, helping to rebuild this colony and training the next generation of defenders. I thought you might say that, Admiral Chen said with a smile. That's why we're also establishing a Colonial Defense Academy here on New Sol Colony. You would be the Commandant, training officers from throughout the Alliance. Now that, Park said, sounds perfect. Dr. Shin Yunji came running up the stairs, her face flushed with excitement. Commander, Admiral, you need to see this. She led them to her new laboratory, where banks of advanced computers were processing data from across the galaxy. On the main screen was a star map showing dozens of solar systems. What are we looking at? Admiral Chen asked. I've been analyzing the quantum signatures from the Veltar bioships, Dr. Shin explained. I think I've found their home system, the place where they originally came from. The room became very quiet. Everyone understood the implications of this discovery. Are you certain? Admiral Chen asked. 97% certain, Dr. Shin said. The quantum resonance patterns all point to this system, about 400 light-years from here. Admiral Chen studied the star map carefully. If we could find their home world, we might be able to end the Veltar threat permanently. No more worlds would have to face what you went through here. It would be dangerous, Park said. We barely survived when they came to us. Going to their home system would require the entire Alliance fleet, Admiral Chen finished. And it would require the best tactical minds we have, people who have actually fought the Veltar and won. She looked at Park meaningfully. People like you, Commander. Park looked out the window at the colony being rebuilt, at the ships in orbit carrying people from dozens of different worlds, all working together to create something better than what had existed before. Admiral, he said, I think I'm ready to discuss that fleet commission after all. 6 months later, Commander Park stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship New Sol, looking at the stars ahead. Behind him was a fleet of 200 ships carrying volunteers from every world in the Independent Worlds Alliance. They were heading toward the Veltar home system, not to destroy or consume, but to end a threat that had terrorized the galaxy for too long. Commander, his communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from the colony. Put it through. The voice that came over the speakers was Professor Nam, now recovered and working with a team of xenobiologists from across the Alliance. Commander Park, this is New Sol Colony. Our new deep space sensors show no Veltar activity in any nearby systems. The harmonic defense grid is working perfectly. Thank you, Professor, Park said. How are the students doing? The first class of the Colonial Defense Academy graduated last week. 50 officers, ready to protect their worlds and help others who need it. They're good people, Commander. They learned well from your example. Park smiled. The Academy was training a new generation of defenders, people who understood that strength came not from consuming others, but from protecting them. Professor, we're approaching the Veltar home system now. If we don't come back, you will come back, Professor Nam said firmly, because that's what humans do. We help each other, we protect each other, and we come home to the people who love us. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Veltar system. What they found there surprised everyone. The system was not full of bioships and weapons. Instead, it was dying. The star was growing dim. The planets were cold and empty. Admiral Chen to all ships, came the voice over the fleet communications. We're detecting no active Veltar presence. The system appears to have been abandoned for centuries.